What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a very special episode of TheLead, where I am teaming up with.
Tejano Sports, man.
There we go, man. I don't know if anybody follows him on Instagram. Make sure you give a follow. I will drop them down in the description below. Really great account. They're hilarious. They got some funny memes, funny posts, and their stories are very serious, though, contrary to the posts. So if you don't think they are credible, make sure to check them out. They are very credible. They are legit. All right. And they also have their own YouTube channel, which will also drop in the description below. But introduce yourself, my man.
Hey, man, thanks. I appreciate the love. Yeah, I like to just think of myself as like an elevated fan page. Like I wouldn't say I'm a casual, but I'm not gonna say I'm an expert. So I'm somewhere in that in between. And I just love football. I love Texas sports. But clearly I focus on the Texans. The
Yeah.
goal is to one day, have all the Texas sports. If I ever grow, I'll have a crew that I have a guy who focuses on Cowboys or a guy who focuses on the Spurs, like stuff like that. But for now, it's just the Texans because that's what I know best for now.
Interesting. Interesting. You're one of the first guests that I've kind of branched away from just Houston sports, just all encompassing Texas, even though as much as I hate and can't stand the Cowboys or the
Yeah.
Mavs or the Spurs, all the other Texas sports teams. But I digress. We're here to talk about Jaguars, Texans, week one matchup with some breaking news just a few hours ago about the Texans in trading Bradley Roby. I want to know your quick thoughts on that.
Uh, I think it was a smart move. A lot of people didn't agree with us paying his cap hit, but essentially Nick Casario and the brass are paying for a higher draft pick. I mean, if you look at personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of Roby to begin with, and if you look at last year's tape, I mean, he was playing unmotivated football for the Texans. I know he's capable of playing great football, but he was getting burnt by, the wide receiver ones. And I think it's a good move for both teams. The Saints, he's going to be a good cornerback number two. He's going to line up against the twos instead of the ones. And the Texans get ample compensation for a 29-year-old cornerback.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm with you there. I don't understand the hate of the Bradley Roby trade. I don't understand it whatsoever, the idea of trading him. I just don't get it. This team with Bradley Roby, I'm still predicting as a 4-13, 3-14, possibly a 5-12 team. He doesn't value another win for me. So in that case, what's the point with him and without him? You're not gaining nothing, you're not losing anything. Yes, he's a really good corner. I believe 2 years ago he proved to the NFL that he could be a cornerback one. Last year, like you said, unmotivated is probably the perfect word to describe him last year because he just didn't look interested whatsoever. The personal reasons, whatever it was behind that and the locker room issue or whatever it was, that was a huge factor that they had to take into account this year. Signing Desmond King, you got Terrence Mitchell. A lot of people keep forgetting this Jimmy Moreland, who they got from Washington, that I think is a really good addition for this Texans team. It's a pretty good addition when the fans from Washington are like, man, that was a good player, man. I can't believe we got rid of him, so that's always good to see. But, any more thoughts on Bradley Roby real quick?
Nah, but I'm curious on what you think. Like, if the Texans are gonna get rid of Roby, why stop there? Like, why not Zach Cunningham or Laramietunsil? I'm not saying I'm for these moves, but like, if they're gonna purge these top tier players, why stop at Roby?
I understand that. Like, just full embrace the tank mentality. I'm not a fan of trading Cunningham just quite yet. Still young for me. I think that's somebody that could lead the linebacker group. I understand the rebuild is 2 to 3 years potentially, worst case scenario longer, but Zach Cunningham is still quite young for me, still a guy that could lead the linebackers and can still be possibly, I don't know if he can be yet, but he could possibly be that perennial, hopeful, multi-time Pro Bowler, potentially be knocking on the door for an All-Pro selection, and then Laramietunsil, I hear that name thrown around a lot on Twitter, is Laramietunsil. Well, why don't we trade him? Why don't we trade him? And it's tough to find a left tackle. I mean, didn't we went through this already? It is tough to find a left tackle. I understand we overspent for him, but Tunsil is a guy look at Dwayne Brown, look at his age, and he's still performing at a really good level. You don't need great offensive linemen. You need good offensive linemen. Laramietunsil is a great offensive lineman. He is arguably top 3, top 5 left tackles in the NFL right now. Regardless of where the top 100 players wants to put him at, regardless of that, he's a top 5 left tackle. So, you can have him for 12 years and he could be, his play, unless injuries rack up, of course, that's the only thing that I can see to that point. But no, I'm not on I don't want to get rid of Tunsil and Cunningham just like that.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with the left tackle. It's one less thing you got to worry about. You can have an average quarterback behind a great offensive line and still win games, or average running back group behind a great offense. And Laramietunsil is just that piece that you need. Cunningham, I wouldn't be too mad depending on the return, and if you watch his tape against guys like Derrick Henry, he was not, that guy to stop the run, but besides that, he is a all-pro linebacker.
Yeah, for sure. And then, those are my thoughts on those two guys. But besides them two, even I don't want to get rid of Titus Howard either. The 2021 draft class, unless Davis Mills becomes somewhat tradable, but we'll get into that later because I know you got a great opinion on Davis Mills for the fans, but we'll get into that a lot later. But other than that, anybody else that wants to go and that they look as expendable, I'm down for it. I don't think anybody else off the top of my head, is man, I got to keep him, if anyone knocks on the door for Desmond King and he's playing pretty good for you and someone goes, well, you know what? We need him. Let's get a third round pick. We just saw the Ravens besides running backs, but they just lost Marcus Peters to a torn ACL, and they got Jimmy Smith, still an older veteran. If they want a Desmond King, I'm not entirely sure he fits their scheme, but if they want him, hey, third round pick, I'm not down with that. I'm pretty excited about that.
Hey, if Caserio keeps finding guys like Nico Collins in the 3rd round and we have 3rd round picks for days, that's a squad right there,
Yeah, man. Next year's team, hopefully, right now with the extra third, hopefully with these set of draft picks, we start creating that influx of young talent that just needs to be injected into this Texans team. But speaking of young talent, you got the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans. What do you think about this matchup right now?
I think it's in our favor. And it's crazy because every mainstream sports media outlet has us losing this game, and I don't understand it because historically speaking, the Texans, no matter who's back there on both sides at under center, have beat the Jaguars. The Jaguars typically do not beat the Texans, and I believe we're at home, right?
Yes.
So we're at home. We have the home field advantage after a pandemic year, so fans are going to be there in supporting. And if you watch the preseason, the Texans looked a lot better than predicted, and the Jaguars looked a lot worse than predicted. Trevor Lawrence has a bad offensive line, and last year I think the Jaguars, I believe, were the youngest team in the NFL, and they didn't get any older, whereas we have a veteran presence. I'm giving us the edge.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't understand, I do understand some of it. I understand, Look, we lost to Deshaun Watson, but all the national media looks at is that, DeAndre Hopkins, JJ Watt, like, and all these guys that we just lost. And they're like, well, that's nothing but a pigsty over there in Houston. And that's complete opposite. I'm not saying we're shit, but
Yeah,
I mean, we're a little bit better than shit, I'm
yeah,
not saying we're great or good or anything, but it's the Jaguars. And like you said, they looked horrible against the Saints in that preseason game that was nationally televised. They looked horrible. Now, whether Trevor Lawrence changes my mind on that week 1, I say he changes my mind on that in week 15, but week 1, out the gate, here's Lovie Smith, experienced defensive coordinator, a guy that can throw in a lot of exotic stuff and confuse a young rookie, possibly in Trevor Lawrence, the horrible offensive line that you said already. Not having Travis Etienne. Yeah, they got James Robinson. But again, that's another thing that they game plan was having a 2 running back set, run the ball a little bit, have a balance. They still can have that with James Robinson, who had a really good year last year, unexpectedly. But bad O-line, the defense is not that great. The one thing I do worry about is the right tackle situation for the Houston Texans. What do you think on that?
I mean, I thought Charlie Heck was, just going to be like a career backup guy. And then all of a sudden he burst onto the scene as a starter. And I'm not out there with him day in, day out in practice. So if the coaches are saying this guy can start at right tackle in the NFL, hey, there's probably some merit into it. You know what I mean? They moved Titus Howard to next to Laramietunsil, I believe. And but before, or I wanted to go back to your point about the Jaguars defense. The Texans defense was like damn near dead last year. Guess who was right there with them?
Yep, the Jaguars.
And I believe our defense got better in the offseason with Lovie Smith's scheme, whereas they got either worse or still the same.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it just gives us that edge, at least week 1.
Yeah, that's if I'm gonna predict a win for this Texans team. It's not gonna be many. It's gonna be week 1. Like I'll at least start off 1-0. Give us this false hope. Look pretty good. It's gonna be a lot of Texan fans going, "Look, guys, we don't need Deshaun Watson."
Yeah.
And week 2 will come, and the Browns will just slap you right in the face, and you're going, "Well, we are who they thought they were."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Jaguars, I could see a week 1 win. Totally agree with the defense. The right tackle part with Charlie Heck, I'm not fully bought into Charlie Heck. Everyone just shows me one clip of where he ran very fast on a pull halfback toss to Scotty Phillips. He didn't do nothing on the play. He just ran very fast, and they went out of bounds, and he pushed a guy, and that was it. Like, he didn't do nothing. Yeah, I wanted to see more. Cool, he runs fast. Great. Yeah. Most NFL players do. Like, yeah, they run faster than us. Like, thank you for concluding that point. Like, I don't understand Charlie Heck. I'm just not really sold on him as a right tackle. I really ain't. But it's just one game. Marcus Cannon should be back. I could deal with it. And yeah, you'll have Josh Allen and Clivon Chaisson, and both of those guys. Chaisson looks like to be a really good edge rusher. Josh Allen looked pretty good out of Kentucky. Had a pretty, I thought, decent year for the Jaguars. Hey, one of them is going to be lined up over Charlie Heck. Yeah, you can have a tight end help and Pharaoh Brown possibly, or Akins or whoever, but overall, the expectations for the Texans moving forward after week 1, what are they?
So here's my personal expectations, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but here's how I feel like the organization should go is I hate tank culture. I absolutely despise it because to me, the number 1 pick in the draft is overrated. I'd rather be the guy that trade out of the first pick to get more quality picks than bank on one guy to save your franchise. I mean, if you look at the history of the NFL, like how often does the number 1 pick either turn a franchise? I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it does, but like Mahomes was picked number 11, Lamar Jackson was picked like 28. Like you can find talent at the later pick while establishing at least a winning culture in the NFL. Like I always use the Steelers as an example. Like when have you ever seen the Steelers pick in the top 10? You know, and they'll have Duck Hodges out there or Mason Rudolph getting his head ripped off by you know, and they still have a winning season. Or you can even look at the Texans of the past when we had Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, or TJ Yates, and we still went into the playoffs. To me, there's some pride in that, and there's a culture in that, you know, like where the Browns were so bad for so long because they were always tanking. Like, when does the tanking stop? I guess that's where I draw the line of like, so my expectations, going back to your question, is I'm not expecting them to win many games. I'm at least expecting them to be competitive and show some heart and play with a chip on their shoulder all season long, and perhaps upset a few teams, you know, along the way.
Yeah. And I agree with you on both. I'm on both sides of the fence with the tanking and, well, why don't we, play for something a little bit, and at the end of the day, I just think the Texans are just going to have a natural organic tank. Like, just similar how the Rockets were this last year. You had a lot of injuries, a lot of guys that went down. And with the Texans, I don't see injuries. I hope not. I don't wish injury upon anybody, but I can see a natural organic tank just because the lack of talent on this team. You went 4-12 last year with Deshaun Watson. Now, yes, you upgraded the defense, you upgraded some parts on the offense, but you downgraded immensely at the most important position, pretty much in the NFL, the premium position, the quarterback position. And Deshaun Watson is over there getting a massage or whatever he's doing on Sunday, week 1. I don't care what he does, but he's no longer, he is still a Texan, but he's no longer a Houston Texan in my point of view. The Texans' natural tank is going to happen. I see them falling top 5 pick, top 10 pick, at the very least top 10. I'd be shocked if they give me more than 5 wins. I would be very shocked. This team, I just don't think, even with the veterans, they average around 26 years old as a team compared to the rest of the teams. They're a little older, but all of them are on 1-year deals. They need to inject this team with some youth. Like I said earlier, the youth needs to happen in the linebacker position and especially the secondary. Secondary scares me a lot, especially, now, not that Roby was going to be a piece for you in the future, but it's going to look a lot worse right now. Hargraves does not add anything to me whatsoever. So I think it's going to be a natural tank moving forward for the Texans.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. My only thing is like, you just know that Casario's not he's an extremely smart guy, and most teams that are trying to tank, they're not signing 100 veteran guys, whereas like I said, the Jaguars last year were the youngest team in the NFL, and they were purposely trying to get Trevor Lawrence or whoever was in the draft, so I'm just curious on what Casario's like thinking, like, is he trying to legitimately win with all these? I'm not saying he is, I'm not saying he isn't, but it's just it's intriguing how they went about their roster in the offseason. They offloaded a bunch of talent, but then they signed a lot of veterans. You don't really see this too often.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying about Casario till today or last night with Roby being traded. Because if he was wanting to look to win, then why would you trade your number 1 cornerback, a guy that, him and Desmond King and Terrence Mitchell sounds a lot better than Desmond King, Terrence Mitchell, and Hargraves. So Hargraves is a whole other topic for a whole other day. He doesn't get his own video. He just gets thrown to the side like every other receiver does to him. So overall, I just believe that Casario was I feel like in the beginning, way when he started this job, just my mindset, nothing I know about this. Okay, this is all opinions, by the way. Anybody watching, it's all opinions. But I feel like he was trying to create this competitive level, and he's mimicked that again over the months, but thinking that he could pry Deshaun Watson back with the Houston Texans. That's really what I thought he was trying to do. But then it's not working out. Okay, well, you know what? Let me just reset this whole year, get rid of Bill O'Brien's snitch or stench or whatever that he still have on here on this team. Get rid of it, put it in the bag, set it in the dumpster, light it up, throw it outside, do whatever you want with it, never see it again. They'll never want to see anything Bill O'Brien here in Houston ever again. Get that out of the way. And then to me, it's like a 1 year just reset that he's just going to press the button. Everything goes away. Anybody that looks decent, like let's say a Lindsey, or let's say a Desmond King, or let's say any of these 1 year deals that looks half decent, looks pretty good, you think you can keep as depth piece, or, you know, as long as they're good contracts, which he's done pretty well so far as a GM, I want to say. But we'll get into the draft in just a minute. But, you know, he's done pretty well so far as a GM. I want to see what his ideas are moving forward. I got to see what he does with Deshaun Watson, and the trade for him in the offseason is what I think is going to happen. We're going to get a Deshaun Watson trade in the offseason. That's what I think. Yeah. But moving forward, I do want to see what Casario's next chess moves are.
Yep. No, for sure. And like for anyone watching, you just got to know that Casario's not a loser. The man has 6 Super. I know obviously it's not all on him that he got 6, but the man knows what it's like to be in a winning culture. I know it's the Patriots way, blah blah blah, but what I'm saying is, like, that man does not want to have a losing franchise. He did not take that job to lose. And I'm not saying that's not happening in week 1, or not, excuse me, year 1. Like, he probably is embracing the suck for now. But that man is going to make moves. He's not complacent. It's pretty obvious that he's got a plan up his sleeve, and none of us Texans fans or anyone, the NFL media, sure as hell doesn't know what it is, you know?
No, everyone keeps dumping more trash on the Texans and more and more. But moving forward with the season, everyone keeps saying Tyrod Taylor half the year up to the bye week, Davis Mills the rest of the year. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Honestly, it kind of makes sense. It depends how the season's going. You know, if you've won like 2 games up until the bye week, throw him in. You know what I mean? You got nothing to lose. I don't even think Tyrod would even take offense to that, to be honest with you. Mills has played like 2 games in college, so just get him his feet wet, drive his value up, because if he doesn't have to be the next Tom Brady, he doesn't have to be the next Andy Dalton, whatever. I say Andy Dalton because they're picked. Andy Dalton was picked in like the 3rd or 4th, and Mills, you know, he doesn't have to be that guy, but if he can be serviceable, his value goes up at least. And then the Texans can make a decision on what to do with him, either the next season or the season after, you know, because he's not a guy I would build a franchise around, just from what I've seen. And even when they picked him, I was like, yeah, this isn't the guy.
Yeah. So some Texan fans will argue with you and say, there's only 3 preseason games. Yeah. How can you judge a guy off 3 preseason games?
Just like I said, coming out of college, if you watched his tape, like, you're like, I don't see what they saw in him to begin with. And then you hear the training camp, and he's like throwing multiple picks every single day. And then you get to the games, and it's all showing. To me, it's all showing that the man he should have stayed 1 more year in college and played a full season and come out of college more polished. Right now, he's too raw, and we know that. And the thing is if they don't play him this season, that it's not like he's going to all of a sudden just be this, you know, serviceable quarterback. He has to get that experience in. And by then, you don't know if he's going to, I don't know. Another thing is, you can just simply look at a guy and say, that's our guy, or he has something about him. I don't see that. Like, the dude doesn't talk, you know, I don't see him commanding the line of scrimmage or the huddle. I just don't see a leader in him. And I know that's harsh. It's a harsh take, but I'm not sold on Mills. You know.
And I'm siding with you, by the way, because Davis Mills, just from what I've saw in his short time in Stanford, sucks that the COVID year happened, you know, but it is what it is. And to me, if he was smart, which apparently it doesn't seem to me he is, he would have stayed next year, because every Texan fan will glorify that next year he would have been a first-round quarterback if he stayed a full year in college. And I hear that so much to ad nauseum, and it's just somewhat annoying because, well, then he should have stayed another year because he don't look like what he could possibly be in next year's draft, what he could have been maybe, because you're too raw. This happens, you're too raw. This NFL is a whole different experience. Like you said, multiple interceptions against this team. And guess what this team defense did on preseason? Multiple turnovers against who? Second and third string quarterbacks. And guess what Davis Mills seems to be projecting as? A second or third string quarterback. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer on him, a negative Nancy, whatever you want to call it. But Davis Mills, after 3 preseason games, like you said, just didn't look like he had it. We all knew. We traded up in the first round to get Deshaun Watson. Everybody knew this was it. This was the guy. Mm-hmm. I can go way back when to a Matt Schaub. And Matt Schaub was very quiet and his demeanor was kind of similar to Mills. Mm. But when I saw Matt Schaub play, I saw a little something I can hold on to. I can grasp onto. Fits the system. Kubiak makes him fit the system. And then, that's a whole other conversation. One Liz Frank injury away from a Super Bowl. That's just my opinion. But Davis Mills, to me, is a projected second stringer, third string quarterback. The hype with him and Pep Hamilton, and people think that Pep Hamilton can just mold him into a diamond and squeeze out that charcoal. I don't see it. I don't. Someone, hopefully, overnight, he changes my mind. And halfway through the season, believe me, I don't mind eating crow. I love when I'm wrong, because that means the Texans are doing good, or Rockets or Astros are doing good. That's what I like to see. Yeah. But overall, I'm agreeing with you, man. Davis Mills, I got to see more. I don't like what I see so far.
Yeah, and to be fair to Mills, to be, like, the man was picked in the 3rd round. And I think a lot of Texans fans have these high expectations because he was the first pick coming off the board or for Houston at all, So, and not to mention, it was on top of the whole Deshaun Watson thing leaving us, which he still hasn't left us yet. But so, like, these false expectations, it's not really fair to Davis Mills that we have these expectations for him, that we're like expecting him to be a first round number 1 overall pick. The man's a 3rd round pick. You gotta be fair to him as well. He just was chasing that bag. He saw that he can enter the draft. Hey, I'm gonna make this money instead of staying another year. I don't blame him, but I would not. If I'm a GM, which I'm clearly not, I'm not building my team around Davis Mills. I'm building it around. I don't even know how I feel about this next quarterback class, honestly. But we can talk about that later or whatever. Yeah. But
we can talk that in a whole other video. That next quarterback class, I want to see more. Just week 1, a lot of overreaction to Rattler and Howell, but I gotta see more. But moving forward, you said Texans win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's what you're predicting. Give me a score.
Oh man, I don't see us scoring many points. I do see us winning. I see the defense carrying this team. So with that being said, like, it's gonna be like 14-10 is my final outcome. But I'll take it. I'll take it
too. I'm similar boat with you. I'm going 2017. I think they kicked a lot of field goals. I think Tyrod Taylor is a guy that's not going to win you many games. He's not going to lose you any games.
Yep.
He's an athletic, lesser version of Alex Smith. Alex Smith is a game manager who, don't get me wrong, very successful. Obviously, that team was all-encompassing, better than the Texans. You had Andy Reid, damn good offensive system. Tyrod Taylor in a lesser ecosystem, and not what I expect at the head coach in David Culley. Still, I like Culley. I like his little attitude and what he brings, but obviously not the long-term plan for the Texans. I'm not saying nothing new there. And yeah, 2017, Trevor Lawrence tries to bring that game-winning touchdown drive or field goal drive and just comes up short, but he shows flashes that he is a number one overall pick for a reason. Before we go, though, where is Deshaun Watson going in the offseason?
Oh man, that's a great question, and I don't think I have the answer to it because I think the Texans can do two things. They can trade him during the season or in the offseason. And the reason why I say during the season is because when that trade deadline comes up, teams become desperate. You
Mm-hmm.
know, by then they know if they're what they need to do at positions, obviously quarterback being the highest of all positions. So if Tua, like for an example, if Miami is stinking it up with Tua despite having a great overall team, they're probably going to be desperate by that trade deadline. Um, Whereas like during the draft cycle, like when things are getting closer, it's the opposite. Teams are desperate to, move up in the draft for a guy they really like. So I think it just depends on how the season is going. Uh Realistically, he's probably gonna get traded in the off season because of the freaking things going on off
Yeah.
the field. So sadly, I don't even if his value was at highest before the trade deadline, I don't see it happening just because those court cases aren't gonna even be I think they're not even gonna begin until like what, April or something like that,
Something
March?
like that. So that's a long, long, long battle for him with
Yeah,
him, Busby and Harden, and all
yeah,
the cat fights that will happen between now and then is going to be crazy.
yeah,
Unfair question to begin with because I don't have an answer either. I mean, Miami obviously is a team that will be looking if Tua stays to not reaching his potential. They don't think he can hit that ceiling that he once had in Alabama. Uh, a team like the Washington football team, I keep looking at them. They don't. Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't the long-term answer, obviously. 38 years old. Taylor Heineke, I just thought was a lightning in a bottle performance against the Buccaneers.
yeah,
But they're obviously going to be interested. Someone like the New York Giants with Daniel Jones, whether or not he progresses. If he doesn't, look at what the Giants got if they add Deshaun Watson. They had a really solid defense last year. You got a Saquon Barkley. You got a Kenny Galladay, a Sterling Shepard, who I think could flourish with Deshaun Watson, an improving offensive line, a lot better than what they were with Eli. So, yeah, I can see the Giants. I can see the Washington football team. Miami will be in the mix. The Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, whether or not he wasn't anything last year. He looks a lot better in shape. I will say that. But that offensive line and what they lost on the offensive line is what scares me. I love the addition at the running back position for them in Najee Harris, but they're still going to need a quarterback next year. You got the
yeah,
New Orleans Saints. You don't know what you're going to get from Jameis Winston. I expect big things from Jameis. I like the move. I do.
yeah,
But if he doesn't pan out, well, now you're looking at the Saints because they're not going to go with Taysom Hill. I'm gonna laugh if they do that.
nah,
Yeah, so there's multiple areas. People always think, oh, well, we got to trade them right away because we're going to run out of options. No, 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 no. Every year there's a team out there that comes out and all of a sudden, damn, we need a quarterback,
yep,
and why not go get a top 5 quarterback, guy that you can argue to being one of the best quarterback in the NFL, the guy that led the league in passing yards up there, Deshaun Watson. And hey, yeah, his 22 cases or whatever, but at the end of the day, what do these owners care about? Business.
money,
They
yep,
care about money. Who's
yep,
going to drive ticket sales? Deshaun Watson.
that's
That's
right.
what they care about at the end of the day. And this is where we conclude our video, man. I appreciate you coming on. I didn't get your name, by the way, man.
Hey, it's disclosed. Nah, I'm just kidding. You call me Angel. Angel is my name on hell, whatever you want to call me.
Whatever you want to promote right now, say it already, man.
Hey, I'm not trying to promote anything. Just give Tejano Sports a chance. I try to be as genuine. I don't blow smoke up anybody's ass. I always keep it real. And a little fantasy tips. Hey, you mentioned Jameis Winston. Hey, I'm all in on Jameis Winston in fantasy and pick up the Texans defense for week 1. I'm not saying the rest of the year. Week 1, pick up the Texans defense, man. And you might be pleasantly surprised. But thank you so much for having me on, dude. I really appreciate it. And I would not mind doing this again in the near future.
Awesome, man. And same thing to you. If you ever want me on your channel, we could do a collab on Instagram. Make sure y'all follow him at Tejano Sports. Me as well, TheLead_HOU. Twitter, TheLead_HOU. I don't know if you have a Twitter, but yeah, man, this was fun. Texans, Jaguars, we got a W in the column book. We're starting off the season 1-0. I don't see much happening after that. But let's get excited for 1 week. Let's get hyped. Let's get excited. Let's get the grill going. Let's pop the top off some beers and let's kick it, man. As always, guys, go Astros, go Rockets, go Texans. Y'all have a blessed day.